All right. I'm Scott Patton. He's Martin Patella, health coach at Life Enthusiast. We're the admins of the fibromyalgia support group, and we wanted to talk about some of the posts that people have been making and give our opinion. Martin has been a life coach for over 40 years, and hopefully we know there's a lot of you on the same side as us based on the readings that we've done, and we approve all the posts. So here we go. So this lady said, I'm here for any tips. I've doubled in size since being diagnosed and medicated. I'm miserable, depressed, and hate seeing anyone. Doctors aren't interested in helping, so any advice would be great, preferably from women though. Preferably from women though. Our bodies are obviously different from men. So then another person popped in and said, Zep bound with dieting and as much exercise as this old broken body can tolerate. So she's the second person is talking about what she's doing. I started gaining after being put on meds for lupus. And since those are lifelong and life-saving, I can't go off them. After a cancer battle last week and subsequently the meds for that caused me to be needing a hysterectomy, and by that go through surgical menopause. I quickly gained yet another 10 pounds, so I turned to, and I took a screenshot and it's see more. So the second person, I think, oh
She
my
took some
goodness,
drugs.
what a life.
Well,
Poor
let me
lady.
start with just addressing this very quickly this way. Nonsense. You have made statements about lupus being lifelong and unsolvable. That is the virus that the medical industry and the pharmaceutical industry stuck in your head. It's not true. It's totally reversible. All of these chronic conditions are reversible. Not perfectly, not easily, but they are totally reversible. And I can promise you that you can get yourself a decent life. One, you have to deal with the root causes. Lupus is not the cause of lupus, and it's definitely not caused by the deficiency in chemical drugs. So this person who gained so much that she doubled in size. Well, let's imagine that she started at 120 pounds and she's 240 now. Chemical drugs mess with your metabolism. They mess with your hormones. They mess with your brain, with your ability to regulate. You are eating the wrong foods. All right, so one, you need to understand your endocrine dominance. Is it adrenal, pituitary, or thyroid? Women before menopause could also be ovarian dominant, but they're fairly rare. And after menopause, that goes away. The thyroid dominant person gains weight with carbohydrates. So if you're eating carbohydrates, or to whatever degree you're eating carbohydrates, you'll be putting on weight. So you should be on a diet that's very low in starch, essentially steak and salad, if you will. However, if you are the adrenal dominant, your weight gain food is fat. So your weight loss diet is the diet that puts weight on the thyroid type. And the third one, the pituitary dominant, their health food is the ancestral diet, the hunter diet, eating heart, lungs, tongue, liver, all the organ meats. That's their health food. And their temptation foods are creamy, whipping cream, ice cream, and all of that fluffy stuff that's in the starchy end of things, fats and starch. And you need to be eating very high purine foods to get out of it. So if you want to know, there is a video that Scott and I recorded back when. It's podcast number 284, and it's called The Weight Loss Secrets, and you can find it on Life Enthusiast website, life-enthusiast.com. Watch it. There are visual examples of what a thyroid type or adrenal type looks like. if you don't eat according to your type, you will be getting results that are completely wrong. So that's the weight issue. I would suggest that you figure out some way to get off of the drugs. Now, you probably took that because of pain, but pain is a symptom of inflammation, and inflammation is a symptom of dysregulation of the metabolic system in the body. So we need to fix the metabolic system. Toxicity, malnutrition, stagnation, and trauma. We can go over the details, and if you call us, we can do an individual session where we will help you understand your specific problems. We're having to deal with triggers and thresholds. Triggers are the environmental effects that get you into what we these days call the flare. If you're in a flare, your nervous system has gone into the fight flight mode. It's trying to save you from dying, but it's doing it in the wrong way. And the thresholds, that's the resilience. How high is your threshold? How much stuff can you hold back? And of course, people in the fibromyalgia group are the ones with thresholds that are very, very low because they get triggered easily. So where are we at this? Well, whatever your hormonal status is, it needs to be taken in account. Whatever your nutritional status is, whatever your genetic status, whatever your toxic load, all of this has to be taken in the picture so that we approach it from a holistic perspective. Yes, you can be made, or yes, we can bring you back to normal, or at least to decent functioning. The biggest lie is when you buy into the pharmaceutical system and you start asking, is gabapentin for me? Is Lyrica for me? The pregabalin or the gabapentin or da-da-da, whatever. All the names that they throw at you. None of them solve a thing. They're just patches.
Martin, I want to add one last thing, actually ask you for a comment on one last thing, because a lot of the people posting and commenting have been talking about trauma. And this is like when I grew up, you know, my mom was mean to me, or my dad was mean to me, or my brother was mean to me, or my sister. And so we have these traumas, and some are, I was in a car accident, and some are beat. Now, so there's some awful stories. And I know that you can be traumatized by things that wouldn't traumatize other people, because I've been traumatized by those things as well. So you had talked about stagnation and, you know, like moving around. What are you eating? What's your metabolic type, and drugs you're on? But I think the other thing is, what do you need to do to deal with these traumas that are locked in your body, causing a lot of stress, a lot of tension, and they won't stop. It's kind of like a little bubble, you know, a spring in the woods, right? This water is coming up and it's not going to stop coming up, because that's just what it does. And you've got to get down there. If you want to stop it, you got to get down near the source and send it off in a different direction. So, yeah, just wanted to bring that up too.
Yeah, trauma is definitely a very, very valid point. It is probably the main reason for the misprogramming of people's brains. The fibromyalgia itself is in your head. It really is literally in your head. The amygdala is an organ that's just under your temples. It's not that big. It's about the shape of an almond and also about that size. And it's the input sorter. The amygdala is sitting at the input of your senses and is evaluating safe, not safe, safe, not safe, safe, not safe. And it's misprogrammed. It sees everything as not safe. When you get triggered, you live in a world of the sky is falling. Everything is causing you to flare. It is changeable. It can be reprogrammed. We had Ashok Gupta on our program about his program that he sells on DVDs or probably online now, where he can teach you with probably over time of about 6 months, you will re-educate your amygdala. It's possible.
Right.
The one thing that's totally wrong for people who are traumatized is to try and do psychotherapy. When you do psychotherapy, the standard Western talk about it method, you are reliving the experiences. And every time you relive something traumatic, you are re-recording it back into your brain. Now you can be changing it. Like it's not the same as playing an MP3 or a video from a recording media. That's not how it works. Every time you relive a memory, you're rewriting it back on top of it. So it can change. You can make it easier or less threatening or more threatening. Depends how you're filtering that recall or the memory. So you can actually invent new memories, and you can actually invent horrible trauma that's going to be traumatizing you, even though it may have never happened. Anyway, there is a method in the Western way to deal with these traumas, and that's the reliving the experience under MDMA. MDMA is known as ecstasy, which is currently defined as illegal drug in the United States. However, if you, under the guidance of some counselor, relive the memory that is highly traumatic to you, and you recall it under the influence of MDMA, it's called ecstasy. It completely makes all negative experiences irrelevant. It's sort of like softening the edges or making it just into no big deal. Anyway, you would write out your story first, cold, your worst nightmare, you write it all out, and then under MDMA, you read it. And after about 4 sessions like that, you will still know the memory, but it will no longer have any of its emotional charge. It's like, yeah, I was raped. Yeah, happened. Who cares? As opposed to reliving it in the worst of all of that sensation, all of the emotions that are sending you into the most stressful, frightful set of mind. So that's
just one of a number of modalities that people can use. EFT is one I really like.
Yes.
And
I've used quantum healing. I've used emotion codes. I've used body talk. I've used touch for health. I've used educational kinesiology, EduK. All of these methods are useful. Neuro-linguistic programming also works.
Right. The big problem, though, is the mainstream medical authorities don't make that available to you.
Yeah, they think it's a chemical problem. It's not. You cannot change the memory by throwing chemicals at it.
Right.
Yeah, it's a software problem, not a hardware problem.
But there's hope, and it can be changed, and you can get better.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Thanks for joining us, everybody. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.